Hello and welcome, beautiful ones. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I am so excited to be chatting with you. So much to talk about, as usual, and it's always a pleasure. So, a lot of the videos that I talk about self care and getting organized and all these things, people don't necessarily see that as metaphysical or psychic or spiritual. But for me and my experience, it has very much been a part of that entire journey. For years, I was looking for an answer as to what was going on with me. Why couldn't I keep up with certain things? Or, just so many questions about things I struggled with. And I never got diagnosed with certain things. So I didn't feel like I could seek out the treatments for that because I felt that that was kind of out of my reach if I didn't have a diagnosis. And then I started to put this into perspective. And this is where I say this is not intended to be a diagnosis or a treatment regimen in any way, shape, or form. This is my personal experience. And, um, and so I started to refer to some of my personality as ADHD personality because I don't have the actual diagnosis. People can see my OCD, so there was never a question about that. I was actually made fun of for that. But when it comes to ADHD, that's something where we think it's hyperactivity, especially with girls and women. If we don't exhibit those signs, then we are kind of dismissed about it. But they said that they've studied boys more when it comes to ADHD. So when it comes to little girls and women, we may daydream rather than be hyperactive because we're treated very differently. So that does come into the big picture. And when I was able to acknowledge it as a part of my personality that may or may not be the actual medical definition, I don't know, but it was easier for me to find ways that worked for me. And so then I came across the term neurodivergent. Everything clicked, everything just fell into place. And then, of course, anxiety and depression and all these things. And, um, you know, with all of these things, it's hard to remain in balance and in harmony. It really is. And then we've got things that we have to do all the time, these obligations and responsibilities. I mean, where do we find the time, really? Not only to get to know ourselves, I was lucky enough that I did have that experience of being able to really tune in with my own energy and find out who I am outside of all the negativity, outside of what everybody else was telling me I was. Um, And I think that that's part of why I was able to, because I didn't really have anybody to turn to say, um, this is me or this is the way I am, and to seek any information on that. Um, so, it was just kind of me navigating life with confusion. It occurred to me when I had one of my first real jobs. I had a couple before that, but this was one of my first that, within modern times, where it actually wasn't seasonal or anything like that, or an apprenticeship type thing, or, self-employment. But anyway, it was one of my first actual jobs, we'll say. And I would ask everybody how to use this little machine. And they would take it from me and they would start punching in everything and tell me, you do this, you do this, you do this. And I was lost. And I realized, you know what? I'm not going to learn unless I take it for myself and figure it out. That's the only way I'm going to, understand this thing. And I did, and I was so proud. And it took me time and time and time of asking different people who were showing me in the exact same way. And, you know, it was easy for them because they knew how, but they weren't understanding to show me. They needed to go step by step, and I couldn't see the screen, you know. So what I would do is I would, have if I was teaching somebody else, I would have them hold it and tell them what to press so that they were getting the hands-on experience, because some of us are audio, visual, or hands-on. Well, this covers all three. And I learned that for myself. I'm hands-on for the most part. I have to do it myself. I even had a teacher when I was like in third grade. No, I was a little bit older, fifth grade. And I wasn't catching on. She did the whole math problem for me. I asked again because I didn't see that, and I thought she would hand me the pencil or something, you know. And so she showed me, and I asked again because I wasn't getting it, and she yelled at me and told me she wasn't going to do the whole thing for me. That wasn't my intention. Then she sent me to a class that required extra help. So, you know, a lot of us have had those experiences. And when you're empathic, you feel like you failed not only yourself, but you feel like you failed other people. And I think that this is where learning and understanding that we are different and it's okay to be different, and to acknowledge the way that we learn and to honor that. Not only that, but our timing and our pace as well. So this is why I have my one thing rule, because it helps to narrow things down. So, and it's really been helping me. And so this is the way that the one thing rule helps. It doesn't have to be one a day or a week or a month, just whenever you get around to it. Find one box, one bag, one section, one drawer, one cabinet, whatever it may be, but find one thing to start on. And, you know, as you start going through and cleaning, you can move on to the next one. If you run across something with miscellaneous items, take it and set it aside, because it's not yours to worry about right now. You could go and follow that miscellaneous box to everywhere in the house where everything belongs, but you may find yourself organizing 10,000 other things from the kitchen drawer that something in that bag or box belongs to, or, you know, another cabinet where something else goes in. So, of course, you know, we don't want to start on something completely new when we're trying to focus. So it's okay to take something and say, okay, this is miscellaneous, and set it aside. You know, donations, breakable, non-breakable, trash, recyclable, non-recyclable, you know, finding our little groove like that. And then, of course, where was it? The miscellaneous time. Okay. So time. A lot of us, if we start getting into something, we tend to go all out, and we won't stop till 5 in the morning or 7 in the morning or whatever comes first. And when we finally find a stopping point. So set a stopping point that is reasonable for you so that you don't become exhausted or overwhelmed. And then kind of, you know, if you need to take a break, take a step away. Don't feel like you're going to, you know, fail yourself in any way, because a lot of times, you know, we're taught if you start something, finish it. It's okay that if you don't get back to it for another 2 or 3 months, that's okay, because this is about honoring your time and your space. And this can apply to other things. So that concept can lead you to confidence. And for me, after getting a lot of progress in the garage, still needs a lot to go. And so, you know, I'm still working on my section because it's going to be a lot of work, but I got all the cabinets done. And then there's a little bit more to do underneath the cabinets. But there's also that miscellaneous box. So I was proud that I was able to put that aside rather than stopping what I was doing and, you know, taking care of that, because that's for another time. But I was able to apply it in that way. So now I'm trying to apply it towards stretching and, you know, getting into the groove of exercise. I don't want to start with like anything aerobic just yet, or anything intense or hardcore. So you know, when we look at that and we think about it, it's kind of like the same thing. I'm taking the aerobics and the hardcore workouts and I'm setting them on that table in the corner till I'm ready, and then we'll worry about it. But for now, it's those baby steps. It's starting with that one thing and trying to just, you know, work with what I need for right now. Um, what was the other thing? Oh, dishes. Dishes is another one that I used to find really intimidating, but it was easy for me to start utilizing that concept of I'll just wash this one glass that I drank out of, and then I'll see if I feel like washing more. And once I started, it was like you get into this groove. Okay, so I'll do this side of the sink, and then, you know, if I have time, I'll do the next side. But as we go along, if we start somewhere and we start seeing that progress, it builds our confidence so that when we go back to it, we don't feel as overwhelmed because we know that we got it. We know that there's a way and that it's going to show progress, because if we do it time and time and time again and get the same result of seeing the progress, then we know it's going to happen. And for me, that's been another thing that helps me with any kind of tasks that I find intimidating or scary or a little bit too much, is looking at it to find a way to make it work for me so that it doesn't become overwhelming, and so that through the repeat behavior and repeat patterns, I know what to expect, and that end result is going to be something that feels good. So, you know, the dishes, that's a great concept because that's, you know, a common everyday thing. It gets a little bit more difficult when it becomes something like cleaning the garage or starting an exercise regimen, or um, the one that I also talk about a lot is phone calls and paperwork and, you know, signing in online to do things that we know is going to take a little while. Filling out any kind of form, basically, or having to go out of the house to fill out forms and, you know, take care of stuff like that. So, um, where was I going with that? Oh, phone calls. So, one a day. Fill out one form that you have been putting on the back burner. Make one phone call. And, you know, a lot of times we think, oh, I'm going to be on hold forever. And we don't look forward to that. So we put that one off. But make a phone call. And then if you have time, make another. And I did that one as well. I was like, okay, this day I'm going to make my phone calls. That is going to be my one thing for that day. And I got all my phone calls out of the way, and you know, it's nice to not have to do that right now. I do have other things that I need to do, but you know, we're taking that day by day. You know, tax season is upon us, so there's that. Anyway, um, you know, it's about working with what we got, and you know, for those of us who have not had a diagnosis, understanding where we're coming from and trying to work with what we've been given and what we got so that we can remain in balance. Because, you know, like I said, you know, being empathic, I think that a lot of us do have those neurodivergent tendencies. And I also think that being empathic is very much teetering on a lot of other psychic experiences, from mediumship to maybe a little bit of clairvoyance or something, you know, things like that. There's so many different gifts out there. I'm not even sure where to begin, but just opening up to being able to kind of see in some way or predict where something is going. And mediumship is communication with the other side and angels and spirit guides. So just to be clear, psychic is predicting future, and empath is feeling energy. So, you know, there's so many things, but I think that empath is just that middle ground that kind of solidifies the spiritual with the mundane. And that's why it's so important to kind of keep in balance with being empathic. You know, and that's why I come to you with all these ideas, you know, the one thing, or self-care and little things to try to make it work when we don't feel that we have time, because sometimes we don't. And we have to make that time, because if we don't, what happens? We all know. I've talked about this before. Because we all know too well. If we don't take care of it, we start to lash out at people because we're not getting enough sleep or enough rest, or we're not asserting boundaries, or we think that being assertive is rude, and it's not. Assertive is just that. And that's another thing that I do teach is, how to be assertive in a way that's comfortable for you, because none of us like confrontation. But I think that bringing things up before it becomes an issue is important as well. So on that note, I wish you all well, and I will be chatting with y'all soon, and I hope you have a wonderful day.